Gerda grasped Kai's hand. He was quite warm now, and together they walked out of the Snow Queen's palace. The Mist Friends stood by the door on guard, and as Gerda led Kai out of the palace, they each bowed to the little girl and dissolved. As Gerda and Kai walked through the garden, the wind stilled, and a pale sun was seen in the northern sky. Gerda headed straight back for the bush with the berries, and there was a sight to gladden the children's hearts. Standing tall and proud, with shining antlers, was the reindeer. Behind him was a doe reindeer, a pretty shy creature only half the size of Gerda's friend. "You came back!" cried Gerda. "How could I not?" replied the reindeer. "Someone must carry you home. I shall take Kai, and the doe will carry you. She has milk to warm you before the journey." The doe's milk was warm and sweet, and the children felt instantly refreshed. They climbed on the reindeers' backs, and with the flurry of snow, the proud creatures kicked off for the Thin Woman's house. The strange old woman was ready with soup from her giant pot, and sound advice about the way home. She clutched Gerda fiercely to her chest. She looked at the reindeer. "Strength of 10 men," she cried, snorting with laughter. But Gerda didn't understand why. Soon it was time to leave the sweltering house, and on they journeyed to the Lap Lady's cottage. The kindly old lady made new mittens and scarves for both the children, and had provisions ready aboard her sled. "I shall take you to the border," she announced. "Not that you wouldn't be able to make it on your own," she added, and laughed to see Gerda's horrified expression. The Lap Lady shook her head, still laughing. "So strong," she muttered amidst her chuckling. The reindeers bounded alongside the sled all the way to the Lapland border. When it was time to say goodbye, Gerda's reindeer nuzzled her cheek and her hair. "Now you are free, dear one," said Gerda. "I shall miss you," said her friend quietly, "and I shall think of you when I am rolling in the snows of my homeland. And when winter comes, I shall take heart from your strength." With a last hug, they said farewell, and Gerda set off with Kai across the countryside. As they walked, it seemed that spring arose to greet them. Pretty flowers decked the roadside, and shoots appeared on shrubs and bushes. The trees put forth their first green leaves and buds, and the birds began their song for the warm weather. There was rain, but to Gerda and Kai it seemed fresh and clean. As they drew near the forest where the robbers lived, they saw a horse trotting towards them. Gerda knew the horse. It had once pulled her the golden carriage, and as it got closer, she recognized the rider too. Her head was covered with a bright scarlet scarf, with the curling hair flowing from beneath the scarf, and the flashing eyes gave her away. It was Gerda's friend, the little robber girl. "I knew you'd make it!" cried the robber girl as soon as she was within shouting distance. Gerda smiled. "How did you know?" she asked. With a shrug of her shoulders, the robber girl said, "I just knew. Gran and the others beat me and sneered and said you would die in the snow, but I knew you were strong." The robber girl jumped down from her horse and hugged Gerda. She looked Kai up and down and shook her head. "Well, you're a fine one," she said, gallivanting off and putting Gerda to all that trouble. Kai hung his head embarrassed, but the robber girl pinched his cheek and laughed. "Mind you, you're handsome enough. I can see why you followed him to the ends of the earth," she said to Gerda with a wink. This time it was Gerda's turn to look embarrassed. "Are you leaving?" Gerda asked, seeing the saddlebags on the horse and the pistol strapped to the robber girl's waist. "Yes," said her friend eagerly. "I've had enough of that life. Meeting you taught me that there are more important things than gold and jewels and finery. A robber's life is not enough for me. I'm heading north to find a friend of my own. Are you on your way home?" "Yes, but I was going to visit the princess and her prince first. They were so kind to me." "Well, you won't see them," announced the robber girl. "They are off on a grand tour of the world. The princess wanted to see all the fine places that she read about in the newspaper." "And the ravens?" asked Gerda. The robber girl looked sad. "Your friend, the woodland raven, is dead, I'm afraid. I'm afraid all that rich food didn't agree with him. His love pines for him and moans at the same time, poor thing." Gerda hung her head. "Don't be too down," said the robber girl. "I hear he died happy because he did one great thing in his life, helping a certain little girl." The robber girl shared some of the bread and cheese with the children and made them tell their adventures over again. Then it was back on her horse and onward northwards to adventures of her own. Kai and Gerda walked on, hand in hand. The countryside was a riot of color, and the sunshine and the bird song lifted their hearts. As they neared their home, the sound of the church bells mingled with the birds, and soon the breeze carried other sounds and smells of the town life to them. The tower above the town hall spiraled into the clear blue sky ahead of them, and before they knew it, they were standing outside Kai's grandmother's house. They climbed the stairs, trembling with excitement, and went into the little attic room. Kai had grown so tall that he had to stoop to get through the door. Grandmother's living room was just as they remembered it, and Grandmother sat smiling, nodding in her armchair. "So you found the strength to return," she said to Kai. Kai put his arm around Gerda. "My strength found me, Granny." I'm actually going to stop it right there. So stay tuned for like 30 seconds of part 3. Okay?